So I'm going to talk fast. Hopefully we'll have time to answer questions because this is going to be one of our topic rooms. So if I say something that interests you or concerns you or freaks you out or whatever, just catch me in the topic room in a little bit. We did a case study that looked at all of Utah's kindergartens on phonemic awareness. Kindergarten is the focus here, so keep that uppermost in your mind. Where the heck? Here we go. All right, so I actually want to come back to this. All right, so the motivation for this study, like we've been doing phonemic awareness for at least 20 years, okay, based on the National Reading Panel report, et cetera. And then 6 years ago, we started getting these crazy questions from people out in the field saying things like, why don't you do phonemic awareness in your intervention models? And we're like, but we do. And they said, no, you don't. And you're not doing enough, you're not doing deletion and substitution, and that's bad, okay? This coincided with, I heard David Kilpatrick speak in 2015 at the Wasatch Reading Summit, and I was nodding away going, with everything he said until he got to this part where he said, and kids, especially struggling readers, really need phoneme deletion and substitution practice. And I'm thinking to myself, what? There are no data that suggests that, none. But he's saying, well, the kids I've worked with, which wouldn't be a study, right? Okay. So, and at the same time, we're getting a lot of schools in Utah using Hegerty and Wonders. So, disclaimer, I have nothing personally against Hegerty and Wonders, but they were the impetus for a lot of these kooky questions we were getting. Why aren't you doing phonemic awareness? And I'd say, well, we are. And they'd say, but you're using letters. If you're using letters, alphabet letters, and if you're having kids write, that's not phonemic awareness because you can do phonemic awareness in the dark. I wish whoever first said that, I could have a conversation with them because that statement has done more damage in schools around the country than probably any other. Here's the deal. Yeah, you can do phonemic awareness in the dark. If you're assessing it, you can't use letters because it's a confound. If you're assessing phonemic awareness, you can't use letters when you assess because it's a confound with orthography, with writing, with print. But if you're instructing phonemic awareness, you should be using letters. There, I just did the whole talk practically right there. Okay, and if you're not using letters, you're losing more than half your power. So I'm going to talk more about that right now. Okay, so Tim Shanahan, who has a big name in the field, and I respect Tim a lot. When David Kilpatrick wrote Tim about this saying, wow, we really need to keep teaching PA, don't we? Here's Tim Shanahan's response, okay? So here I am. This is Tim. Okay, so everybody kind of read this with me. If you're muted, that's okay. My position ultimately is based on the fact that there are more than 100 studies showing the learning benefits of PA instruction in pre-K, K, and grade 1. And how many studies show its benefits in grades 2? Keep that in mind. Grades 2 and up. None. Okay? So to say, oh, we got to do this. Oh, there are no studies that support that. Zero, zip, zilch. Next time you have this stuff being shoved down your throat, you can say, where are the studies that show a great effect in 3rd and 4th grade, even for kids who struggle? And by that, I'm talking about advanced tasks. Here are the two big sins in my estimation. The big sins are having kids do advanced tasks like deletion and substitution. For example, say the word nest. Everybody say nest. Now say it without s. That's substitution. Here's deletion. The word is nest. What word? Say it without n. That's deletion. Those are advanced tasks that require reading ability. So doing advanced tasks, there are no data to support it. The other big sin is people that are saying you have to do it without letters. That is absolute hogwash, as I'm going to show you today. Can you tell I'm kind of worked up about this? Okay, so I got so mad at like these 17-year-old girls who are like running district literacy stuff coming up to me and saying, "You're not doing phonemic awareness." And I'm like, really? Does your mom know you're masquerading as a literacy coach? Because I'm going to report you. So I got so mad at it. We did a big study on it. Okay. And lo and behold, we were able to have it published in the top reading journal. It sounds goofy to say this, but it's true, in the world. Reading Research Quarterly, super hard to get into. It's got like a, I don't know, 90 something rejection rate. So me, Kelly, Matt, and Grace, we did this study on phonological awareness materials in Utah kindergartens as a case study, and it's been published. So if you want a copy, email me and I'll send you one for like a PDF. All right, I already talked about that. Here are our research questions. I'm going to go fast. To what extent do Utah districts provide these materials, PA materials to classrooms? Commercial materials. Are some commercial PA materials used more than others? And then to what extent are the most widely used PA materials in Utah kindergartens consistent with research? The best research, not just any old research that's out there. And I'll talk more about that. The NRP, National Reading Report, National Reading Panel Report, the National Early Literacy Panel Report, and then subsequent research after 2006. The NRP came out in 2000, the NELP came out in 2006, and we looked at everything between then and now. All right, I'm not going to go over this. I think most of you know what phonological awareness is. The big issue is this. It develops from larger units like syllables down to smaller units at the phoneme level. And then these 5 and 6, these more difficult ones, you have to like do stuff with the phonemes. Enough there. All right, so get this. We got in touch with all of 41, Utah's 41 districts. We got information from all 41 districts. This is 100% completion response rate, 42,000 kindergartners. And we asked the districts, hey, what's your core program? The second question was, do you use Hegerty? Because it's, from what I had seen around the state, lots and lots of districts are using Hegerty. We reviewed those research reports. We looked at all the other research, and then we looked at the materials to determine, is it consistent or inconsistent with the research? All right, here's what we got. Like I said, 41 of 41 districts reporting. 15 districts use wonders. Now you got some big districts there. So it accounts for 50% of Utah kindergarten students. 30 of 41 districts use Hegerty. It accounts for 66% of Utah kindergarten students. One of these programs is available to 85% of kindergarten kids. Both programs available to 31%. And in a lot of schools I see, they're doing both. They're doing wonders phonemic awareness stuff and Hegerty, because they figure the more the better, right? Not so. All right, what's the research say? Now hang with me on this, because this can get a little crazy. There are certain results that stand the test of time in research and cut across research. Probably the biggest one is use letters in the tasks. Phonological and phonemic awareness. Uh-oh, are we okay? Can you still see me? Okay, good, because I just got some weird thing on my screen. Use letters. When you don't use letters in phonemic awareness activities, now, and let's talk about kids who know at least some alphabet, right? Like obviously, if you've got preschoolers who don't know any alphabet, you can't use letters. I got that, okay? We're talking about kids who know at least 4 letters, all right? So use letters in the tasks in phonological and phonemic awareness. If you don't use letters, it's only half as powerful. When you don't use letters, this is why it's in red. I'm using channeling Dibbles here. You get an effect. These are effects on reading achievement, okay? These are effects on reading achievement. When you don't use letters, you get a treatment effect. This is a meta-analysis across many studies of 0.38. When you do use letters, you get a treatment effect on reading of 0.67. Why would you not use letters? I mean, I'm serious, but if you look at Hegerty and you look at Wonders, well, I'm cutting to the chase, but they don't use letters. So you're cutting your effect in half. Here's the other big takeaway. The research is also clear on this, and it's even more clear than it is about letters. Focus on only 1 or 2 tasks, all right? When studies used 3 or more tasks, look what they got. A treatment effect of 0.27 on reading. It's pretty small. When they used 1 or 2 tasks, and this is the one with 2, this is the treatment effect that relates to using 2 tasks, 0.79. 1 task, 0.71. These are highly vetted studies, many of them that all collapsed into a meta-analysis for the NRP with those results. People talk about, oh, I know the research. Well, I want to say, have you read the NRP? Oh, and if you read it 20 years ago, have you reread it when you're looking at your phonemic awareness instruction? Because when you look at it, these results are front and center. Use letters, only focus on 1 or 2 tasks. Okay. Check this out. The lag time difference, in other words, when they went back later, when the studies, all these different studies went back later to look at phonemic awareness instruction, those that had used 2 tasks, their treatment effect was 1.28. Matt, what would John Kircher call that?
Oh, he would still say it was significant.
Yeah. But he would make fun of people who said it was
extravagantly large.
Wildly significant. Yeah. Okay. 1.28, nobody gets that hardly ever. We have with early steps. Okay. Look at this. 1 task got 0.55. 3 or more tasks, 0.23. It's not much. Okay. I'm going to stop now. And I want you to look at these 3 findings from, I mean, an entire body of research, the NRP, the NELP, and then we went and looked back at everything up till 2019 because we said to ourselves, well, what if there's new stuff that isn't in the NRP? We don't want to miss it. And guess what? Whatever there was supported these results. So take a minute and just chat me up, go to the chat thing and say, so what's this tell you about what's going on in your schools, your districts? Any thoughts? Go for it. Hit the chat. Hit the chat. Somebody want to handle chat for me here?
I can, Kathleen.
Thanks, Kirsten. I can't see my chat. That's what I'm kind of irritated.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to
chat right out loud.
Okay.
I'm going to chat right out loud because
yeah, go Angie.
Some people, they get Hegerty and they love it. And there's 8 tasks in the day and they love it. They think it's so great. And when I try to tell them this information, which you did tell us last year, they don't believe me. And they don't believe, like you, when you say we have it in steps and they're like, no, there's none in steps. It's our CKLA program has it and it's embedded. They just don't recognize it. And it is already there. They just don't have the background to understand what the heck is going on.
Wow, maybe, you know what? I'll just say this. Anybody who would like to have their principal, I'd be happy to meet on Zoom with a group of principals or teachers or whoever to explain this and answer their questions. I guess my question would be is, why are you so wedded to this? If the data suggests that it's not helpful, and in fact is taking away from kids reading text.
So Kathleen, Lisa Jolly is saying she uses Hegerty and has built in using visible letters, and
Good.
her students' understanding jumps dramatically. Where some people are suggesting using letters in sequence. We have a question. How do you define task?
Task, any activity or thing that a teacher wants kids to do with phonological or phonemic awareness. Skill, task, activity. We landed on task because it seemed to create the notion that the kids were doing something.
Robin suggests we need to analyze and use the tools we have access to while looking at what the current evidence is telling us.
One of the main things I would say is get letters in there as much as possible. Let the kids have their whiteboards when you're doing Hegerty. And the other thing, or Wonders or whoever. And the other thing I would suggest is don't do all of it. I'm going to show you there's a ton of Hegerty stuff that is absolutely not needed or based in research. All that foolishness with switching words, like say anybody without any. There's no data on that either. Anything else, Kirsten, or should I roll?
I think you're good.
All right. So those two are huge. There's another big piece that the research says, and that is to match the development of kids' phonological and orthographic abilities. That's a tough one. We're going to talk about that. And then there's another piece that is very strong in the research. Preschool through grade 1. Does that say grade 6 or grade 3 or even grade 2? No. It says preschool through grade 1 because here's the deal. They tried it with other grades and it didn't buy them much. The big impact for, frankly, and this kind of unnerved me, but the big impact when you look at the individual studies and when you look at even the treatment effect for which grade matters, it's really preschool and kindergarten and not so much first. I would make the argument because that's because by first grade, a lot of kids have a lot of orthographic stuff going on and that takes over. At some point in reading development, orthography trumps phonology. Does that make sense? Phonology is just a means to help get the orthographic system up and going. You know, once they can do that, there's no need to keep beating the phonological horse without orthography, without letters. The other big piece that they found that stands through all the research is that phonological awareness can indeed be taught explicitly to students who have deficits in phonology, in phonological awareness. All right, so, can you guys see this or should I blow it up more?
We can see it and people can adjust their view option as well,
Right,
if they would like.
So here's what we did. We looked at Wonders and Hegerty, because those are the big programs used in Utah kindergartens. Remember, we got every district to write back or to call us or whatever. And here's what we found. Wonders is not, so the choices are consistent with the research, mixed consistency, or not consistent. Wonders and Hegerty are not consistent at all because they don't use any letters. The people that wrote their stuff seem to be under the impression that if you want kids to practice phonemic awareness or phonological awareness, you can't use letters. I don't know what they were reading, but they didn't read the research. Focus on one or two tasks. And what the research does say is that blending and segmenting are the big ones. Again, with letters, okay? They're not consistent there, and I'll talk about why, and what the ways that they're not. Matching development, mixed. I'll talk about that. Both programs have a strong focus in primary grade curricula, consistent there. Explicit instruction for kids who have phonological difficulties, mixed consistency. I don't know if I'll get to that today because I want to, but if any of you have questions about that, let me know. Okay, so here's the deal. Hegerty, no letters. Wonders, no letters. They both say, hey, you want to match this up to your phonics? And Wonders actually does a nice job of matching their PA and phonics instruction. But here's what I want to say to the Wonders authors. I got an idea. How about you do them together? Because if you say to kids, hey, you know what? Everybody say the word sand. What's the word? Okay. All right, let's tap that word out. Ready? Here we go. Say sand. What says? Kids say yes. Write that down. Okay. Say the word sand. Okay, tap it out. What says ah? Okay, do you see what I'm saying there? Write that down. So you're doing, that's phonological, that's doing phonemic awareness with letters, which is how it's supposed to be done according to all of the research. There's no, you look at those treatment effects. It's all right there. I mean, did they get an effect? Yeah, this much when they don't use letters. But when you use letters, it's double. Okay, next. So let's look at these a little more specifically. Wonders, so the point about you should only do 1 or 2 tasks kind of at a time. Now, if you're going to do it for a year, that would change, of course, right? But like in a week or a couple of weeks, let alone in a day, you should only be focusing on 1 or 2 tasks, all right? Neither program is consistent. For example, Wonders does 4.5. We looked at every single day of instruction, every single day in kindergarten Wonders. Every day, okay? Same with Hegerty, every day. What we found in Wonders is they do 4.5 different PA tasks every week, and they usually do 2 to 3 different tasks a day. And it changes every day. They alternate, but it's not consistent, okay? For example, in month 1, they introduced 10 different tasks of all kinds of difficulty. By week 18, which is middle of the year, they added 5 more tasks, so they're up to 15 tasks total for the year. Week 34, by week 34, they'd added 7 more tasks, so a total of 22 over the year. Now, Wonders does a good job here in this sense. Well, I would say half a good job. Their most frequent task is blending. Remember the NRP shows that, right? Blending and segmenting are the coin of the realm. But what you can unmute for this. If they're saying, for example, do this, ready? You're my students. Put these sounds together. What's it make?
Man.
Right. What would make that activity better than the way I just did it?
Showing the letters.
Who's showing the letters?
Teacher.
Teacher or the kids?
Teacher.
No, I mean, well, teacher initially is going to have to model that, but after that, who do you want using the letters?
Kids tap.
Kids.
Put the letters
You
on.
want the kids writing the letters
Yes.
because that's what's going to cement the orthography in the mind. Whoever said teacher,
Okay.
you're right for the modeling aspect. The teacher has to show them how to do it. But as soon as they know how to do it, you're asking the kids to write the letters down, you know?
Phoneme mapping, phoneme graphing mapping is like key.
And why would you have tasks, activities that don't maximize that? It's almost like you know what, here's my favorite metaphor. I meant to put this in the slides. It's almost like a lot of you guys play instruments, right? It'd be like if a kid's on an instrument, the kid's going to practice or learn an instrument, but you never really let them play it, right? You have them hum. You just have them hum the notes. How's that going to help you with the piano? It might help a little bit. Kirsten, you could probably help me with this musical metaphor at some point. Or it's like having them just practice scales and never play in a piece. Or they have to, because instruments are such a phonological realm, it'd be like having them close their ears and just looking at their fingers, right? Flip it on its head. You're withholding some of the best teaching. You're withholding an important teaching vehicle. All right, Hegerty, 9 different tasks every day. Now it's the same tasks every day, okay? But it's 9 different ones a day. And even I said they're the same every day. They're really not. They change over time, as you people who know Hegerty know that. Week 1, they get 9 different tasks, of course. Week 18, they're up to 27 total. And then week 33, they add 5 more. So there's 32 tasks over the year. Their most frequent task, and this is where Hegerty is a problem. So those of you who have Hegerty in your districts, your schools, pay attention to this one. Your teachers will hate this, but too bad, so sad. Remember how I told you that the NRP and subsequent research said that blending and segmenting phonemes is the big place to focus, right? The most important place to focus your instruction. Do you notice that they didn't say that syllables were an important focus. They didn't say that onset rhyme was an important focus. That's because the research suggests that those areas, those easy areas of phonological awareness, like saying like, okay, the word is gentrification. What's the word? Okay, clap it out. And gentrification. Okay, so getting those, so that syllable awareness doesn't buy you much. Okay, certainly not in kindergarten. The onset rhyme stuff, like say, okay, I want, and you could show them a picture of a truck, and you could show them a picture of a boat. Okay. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it weird. It's oat. What did I forget? The book, right? That's working on onsets. That's what Hegerty spends the most time on. The word is jump, everybody. What's the word? If I said what did I forget? Okay, I don't think they say forget, but you get the point. They're working on onsets, okay? Now, for those of you that are doing both Wonders and Hegerty, during week 1 of school, week 1, kindergartners in districts where they use both were asked to cue 16 different phonological awareness tasks at varying levels of difficulty. Some of them are really hard. 16. I'm not sure you'd get any effect for that. All right, now this, we're moving into development, okay? This is probably the theoretically most dense and difficult area to understand, so I'm not going to be able to do it justice, but I'm going to try. There are, and Kirsten, do these guys have access to this now, or just like can they fool with it or no?
They do have access to it. It's in the drive.
Oh, good. Oh, you're wonderful. Okay, so everybody, here's the deal. These 2 different slides, take a look and see which one you want to, makes more sense to you in the sense of, oh, I like looking at this one better. I have a sneaking suspicion it might be this one. Here's what this slide said. These are causal relationships. Hey, Matt, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, can you give them a sentence or 2 about causality and how you prove that as opposed to things just being associated?
Well, lots of things are correlated. Weird things like the full moon and ice cream sales or something have a correlation that doesn't mean one actually causes the other. To prove causality, to prove one thing causes the other, you have to show that one thing happens first, that the other thing happens, and it only happens because the first thing happened. You have to show that they both, that you can't have the one without the other. And it's a little more complicated than that. But in this case, for this study, they used the correct stats to show that beginning consonant awareness required alphabet knowledge. It wasn't that they were correlated, that if you knew one, you knew the other. Like you could have a high correlation between your arithmetic facts. You might know that 3 + 2 is 5, as well as you know that Q is a letter of the alphabet.
Yeah,
But
thanks.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, super helpful, Matt. Thank you. So just to capitalize on what Matt's saying here is each of these things, reading, word recognition, each of these things are dependent and can only happen if these other things happen before them. Like, get this, you can't segment phonemes. Okay, and this is important for people who teach kindergarten. You can't segment phonemes. In other words, when they try this with kids, they couldn't do it. You can't segment phonemes if you don't know your alphabet, and if you aren't able to take the beginning consonant off of a word. Like if I said, hey, these are my, this is my mouth. What's the first, if I was going to write mouth, what's the first sound I would write? And to be able to say, if you can't do tasks like that, you can't do this. The word is bet. Tell me the sounds. B, e, t. You can't do it. Like they just can't do it. So super important. All right. These things are reciprocally causal and bidirectional. You can't improve. And that's the other thing. I'm not going to go into that. It's too dense. But just know that strong alphabet skill is a prereq for onset rhyme and first sound awareness. It all starts with alphabet. See this? This is a different study. Stahl and Murray are saying, hey, gotta have alphabet. Daryl Morris and his colleagues are saying, hey, gotta have alphabet. So Robin and Angie and some of you folks out there who I know you're getting a lot of hard push for Hegerty and some of the stuff in Wonders. For beginning kindergartners, what should the most time, well, I don't mean this just for them, everybody. For beginning kindergartners, what should teachers be spending time making sure they know how to do? If anybody wants to shout out, shout out. You don't have to mute. What
Know their
starts,
letters.
yeah, what starts everything in the progression? If the alphabet, if they don't know their alphabet, like names and sounds, and if they don't know them really well, the rest of this stuff doesn't happen. So when you get a Title I school where you have, do you have kindergartners that come in and don't know their letter names and letter sounds? Plenty, right? That's the first hit that's needed. All right. I'm going to, here's an example. This is a kindergarten task early. I think I might have shown you some of this last year. Okay, so I'm going to be the teacher. In the word apple, we hear the sound ah. What sound do we hear? Now, say these pictures. What's this? What's this? This is mix, by the way. This is fan, plant, mix. Which picture does not use the sound ah? Did you have to really think about that? And I'm betting that you pictured the word spelling in your mind to figure it out. So kids who can't read, I'm not even talking about just knowing letters. Kids that can't read already can't do this kind of task. And this task was used in week 5 of kindergarten. I would submit that that's a waste of time because the only kids in the room that can do it are the kids who are already reading and above grade level. And we'll talk a little bit more about how those kids impact the whole classroom in a minute. Important fact, kids who don't know 45 letter names, in other words, lowercase and uppercase, right? Kids who don't have strong mastery of at least 45 letter names, because there'd be 52, right? They can't split onset from rhyme when you ask them to say, like, you know, what's the first sound in sane? Or what's the first sound in pad? They can't do those tasks. Here's another important, I gestured to this earlier. Assessment for phonemic awareness has to be oral only, but that doesn't mean you can't use letters in instruction. And importantly, just because a task measures well, in other words, a good measure discriminates amongst the people who take the measure. What psychometricians want a lot is, you know, a normal distribution where only a few people do really well, right? And a lot of people are kind of in the middle. And then there's a few people that can't do anything. All right. Phonemic substitution, like I told you with nest being net, deletion, those are awesome at discriminating, but it doesn't mean you need to make them part of instruction, especially when there are no data that suggest that it's helpful. You know, I'm incredibly data driven. If there were studies saying that doing phonemic deletion and substitution were helpful to anybody, I'd be the first person saying, we need to do it, everybody, let's go. But there aren't any. So I'm this rush to do things, and I realize state offices are pushing it. I wish they would read the research. Here's another thing that I didn't talk about last year, but I put in the paper because it became really evident. Hegerty and Wonders both do things that exceed working memory, especially for little kids. So let me give you an example on that. Okay, here's a phonemic categorization task from Wonders from week 7. Okay, you're my kids, okay? So unmute, so I want to hear you. Say feet, purple, plate.
Feet, purple, plate.
Which one doesn't belong? Listen, I'm going to give you extra help. Feet, purple, plate. Which one doesn't belong?
Feet.
Okay, you got it.
Purple,
Yeah.
plate.
Did you have to think about it a little bit? Did you have to kind of, what was hard, what would be hard about that for a little kid?
Or no.
Figuring out what sound they need to
Task
pay
is-
attention to.
Yeah.
Where that sound's coming from.
And one sound is in medial position, one's in a beginning position, the p sound.
Yeah. You have to hold, here's the working memory part. You have to hold the words in memory. Feet, purple, and plate, right? You got to hang on to them. Can you imagine if you're an English learner? Okay. You got to hang on to feet, purple, plate. Then you have to analyze each one and decide which two go together and which one doesn't fit. That's a lot to hold in working memory before it degrades. And I gave you extra help. I said the words twice. A teacher who doesn't know might just say it. Okay, here's another one that exceeds working memory. Okay, I'm going to say some words. If you hear "ah" in the middle, say "ah." Okay, listen. Sip. Ham.
Ah.
No, say "ah," please.
Ah.
You know, why they all choose nasals, I have no idea, because it's not ham. You know, we Americans nasal it. We say ham, and it doesn't sound like "ah." Right, Ursula?
Yes.
Here's another one. Rice.
Rice.
No, if you say, don't say anything. Can you imagine doing this with 30 kindergarten kids? If you don't hear "ah," don't say anything. Rice. Sat.
Ah.
Okay. All right. For those two tasks, feet, purple plate, and then the "ah" thing, get into the chat and say, what is it about, what do those tasks ask kids to do that would exceed their working memory, would blow through their working memory? What's the memory load? Jump onto, we're almost done too, so hang with me. Jump onto chat and see, like, you know, what are we getting, Kirsten?
We're hearing what sounds they're listening for, remembering all of the different vowel sounds and which one to say.
Bingo.
It's an advanced segmenting skill. They might not even know how to segment. Remembering all words and sounds in each word and what sound they're looking for, and remember the instructions and analyzing the sounds as well.
Yeah, remember the instructions, which some of you had trouble with. I don't want to hear anybody say anything unless I hear the "ah" sound.
We have analyzing the sounds in each word and having to remember which sound they're looking for.
Now add this to it. Many kids in early kindergarten, which is when this happens, many kids in early kindergarten don't even know all their alphabet yet. And if they, what did we learn from the research? If they don't know their alphabet, they can't do this, right? Here's the other thing that drives me crazy. When you look at one, this is Wonders in particular. I think they try to make it engaging. So they're always changing the directions. They take it's touch your ear if you do this. Okay, clap. Say the sound. Don't say the sound. Say the word that belongs. Say the word that doesn't belong. Count the sounds. even with the same type of task, right? They change the directions all the time. I think it adds a level of complexity that you're like, well, I think it'd be hard for the teachers even to keep up. So I got a question for you. Write in on this one. So when a teacher's doing things like, which word doesn't belong? Feet, purple, plate. And the whole class seems to say feet, which is the right answer. And she's got 10 kids that don't even know their alphabet yet, but they all say feet. How did that happen? Go ahead and write in on that. Looks like everybody can do it. Kathleen Brown's full of baloney.
Nice. Everyone's saying pretty much the same thing. They're piggybacking. They're following the strong kiddo's voice.
You've probably got, in most kindergarten classrooms, you've probably got a few kids that can already read pretty well. And guess what? They can do these tasks pretty well. Guess what? They don't need to practice these tasks. But the kids who don't know how to do it, they only have to hear, they only might be a quarter of a second behind. It sounds like a choral response. But I can tell you that if you pulled the lower kids, or I shouldn't say lower, I said the kids who don't know their alphabet very well yet, can't pull off beginning consonants yet, don't have concept of word yet. If you pulled them into a room and tried to do these tasks with them, they wouldn't do well because they don't have anybody to cheat off of. I don't blame them, I'd cheat too. Anything else on there, Kirsten?
We have, yes, some people are saying that they're paying attention to the last sound, like they're
In
saying
feet, purple, plate.
that's what we're seeing. Some people are saying that maybe it's the instructions maybe are confusing, that they might say the wrong word, that the purple
Oh,
is the
yeah.
outlier because it has 2 syllables, so they can't keep the instruction in their head long enough to
Right.
get it.
Yeah. Yeah, all of that. They're tasks that discriminate well in assessment. They can show you your top, the great unwashed in the middle. I always think of all of us hanging out in the middle there. And then your kids who are really low. It's a good assessment, but it doesn't make for good instruction. Most of these programs, in particular Wonders, I think what their authors did is they went to the assessments that they saw in research and lifted them directly into being used for instruction and didn't think about the fact that they're good assessment items for a reason. They're super hard. All right, let's look at Hegerty. Oh, I took my Hegerty back to the office. I was going to get you another. I used this one last year, but whatever. Okay, listen, students. Which word begins like itchy? Say itchy.
G.
Add, ignore. Which one sounds like itchy? And you know it's ignore, right? Because it sounds like, which word begins like itchy, I should have said. Which word begins like itchy? Sorry, I'm giving bad instructions. Here's another one. Okay. Say these sounds after me and put them together. No, don't say the sounds. Tell me what word I'm saying. My mistake. G, a, v, it, e. What word?
Gravity.
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 Here's another one. I, n, s, s. What word?
Yes.
There's another one. Ch, I, l, d, n. What's that word?
Children.
Children.
Crazy.
Okay, take that one. Take those apart. Hit me up with some chat. How do these tasks exceed working memory for kindergartners? Or are just plain, yeah, I think that's the best question. How do they exceed working memory?
We having the kids don't know the words. You have to hang
Do they know
on.
gravity?
Yeah. There's too many sounds. It's too long. It's too many sounds for children to hold in memory. Lee said she had to repeat them to herself. They forget the initial sounds. Too long. Too many letters. Too many sounds. Too long.
Here's the deal. Remember how we talked about how blending is super important? Oh, and by the way, now let's go the reverse. Okay, everybody say the word children. Tell me the sound you hear. Good job. Say the word gravity.
Gravity.
Tell me the sounds you hear. These are real words from Hegerty. I'm not making this up. Okay. Here's the deal. Remember how we talked about blending and segmentation are the coin of the realm? I'm like this, blending, segmentation. Yes, they have to have it. Those were all done with single syllable words. There's no reason to have 2, 3, 4 syllable words. And they were all done with like 3, 4, and 5 phonemes, not 7. And this is kindergarten. Okay, I'll stop raving. All right, so question, and then we're done for today. Think about this, and then maybe what we should do is I'm going to pose this, and then I'm going to go back to my chat room, which is whatever it is, breakout room is 16. And if you want to talk more about this, my question is, what are your thoughts about your classroom, your schools, your district, and how can we help with this? Okay, I can certainly send the article out to everybody, but what are your thoughts? What are your concerns, and what are your thoughts about how we can help?
I guess a list of like you said, segmenting and blending. If the teachers had something that important aspect of PA, and they would know which parts to take out.
Yeah. Nikki Baker, who I just love up in Davis District, she calls it shopping in Hegerty. Going shopping in Hegerty or shopping in Wonders. Yeah, and I would say a good thing that any school district, whatever, could do would be take everything out that's polysyllabic. This makes no sense to do anything with with more than one syllable. I would take anything out that's probably for kindergarten, more than 3, maybe 4 at the end of the year. For kindergarten, I'd take out anything that has more than 3 syllables until the very end of the year, and you can try, syllables, sounds, phonemes. No more than 3 phonemes, maybe 4 at the end of the year. But in your Title I schools, I'd start with 2 phonemes. But again, remember the prerequisites for blending and segmenting are strong alphabet knowledge. I'm going to go back to this. All right, let's go back. Look what's got it. Here's segmentation. And that's easier than blending. Okay, blending would be in here somewhere. Look what has to be in place to get segmentation. Alphabet, pulling the beginning consonant, like if the word is sink, what's the first sound? Concept of word, being able to point in text, and then spelling with beginning and ending consonant. Like I said to a kid, hey, the word is feet, like those are your feet. What's the first thing you would write? And they would need to represent it, F, and then say, can you tell me any more? Is there anything else you hear in feet? And if they could do the endings in those 3 sound words, all that should be in place before you start fooling around with segmentation. Because if you do, they'll just have to hitchhike on everybody else, which, might be okay for 5 minutes, but I'm seeing people spending, they say what's Hegerty's, 10, 15 minutes? No, 15? I think it's 15. I could look it up. And then Wonders is another, this is 30 minutes a day doing stuff without letters. Anybody else, other quick questions before we bolt? to topic rooms?
So the way I understand it is when you're using the letters, it's namely saying the sounds and having the kids write them.
Exactly. If you say to the kid, like I just did, okay, the word is back. Say back. If you were going to write back, what's the first thing you would write? Okay, and they could write a B, or little kids will say B, right? That's showing the ability to segment phonemes at the initial sound level, the initial phoneme level. She said, is there anything else you hear in back? I'm not going back. Is there anything else you hear in back? And if they say, yeah, or they might put a C.
I called them back there.
But the point is, they're showing phonemic awareness at the segmentation level, initial and ending sound. Now, where do they have trouble? The middle, right? But that's important to get to. But a lot of kindergartners won't get there until, at best, mid-year. Well, I take that back. Maybe November if they're getting good instruction.
And then when you do the blending, you also have the kids pull or write letters.
So blending, let's think about blending for a second. Blending would be like, if I say, yeah, let me think here for a second. Oh, that's where you can use your L. Conan boxes. Okay, so you'd say, okay, I have sounds here, okay? We don't want to give them the word yet. I'm trying to get a good word. Okay. Let's try it again. What says? All right. Let's try it again. Here we go. What says ah? The last sound is what says t? Okay, and then right there. So let's put them together. And then they can push up their tokens, right? Put it together, sat. But I wouldn't start with 3 with kindergarten. I'd probably start just saying, what are we going to do for that first sound? You know, if you get the paper, I give a bunch of instructions for how to do blending and segmenting at the end, how to do it with letters. All right, I think we should head for topic rooms. Okay, at this point, feel free